So by addressing human-wildlife conflict, we are protecting people, but also keeping those corridors, that dynamic and those old links intact. The Mozambique Wildlife Alliance is a local Mozambican non-profit organization that was conceptualized, created and then developed to address specific conservation issues in Mozambique. There was back and forth discussions about creating a support structure for ANAC, the National Administration of Conservation Areas, that would help implement their mandate. Because ANAC has a large mandate. Mozambique has a vast network of protected areas, about 25% of the territory, and with lots of challenges. So there was a need to create a local organization that would work with ANAC to address some of those issues. The Mozambique Wildlife Alliance is currently staffed by 32 people, 3 expats and 29 Mozambicans. We are supported by 9 funding organizations, so everything that we talk about is done free of cost for the government. Our agenda is to support ANAC where ANAC needs support, and so there's joint meetings, there's report sharing, there's constant communication between us and ANAC. Our mandate is based on an MOU that was signed with ANAC in 2021 to support the conservation efforts across the country in 3 pillars. The first pillar is wildlife veterinary interventions. We are a group of 5 wildlife vets, and we work across the country, inside, outside of protected areas, supporting conservation initiatives and projects. That goes from reintroduction of new species into national parks where those species were extinct, all the capture, reintroduction, translocation process, to treating animals with human-induced injuries, to dehorning rhinos for protection purposes, to collaring elephants for monitoring and human-wildlife conflict mitigation purposes. All veterinary interventions across the country are done in partnership with ANAC by MWA vets. That's number 1 pillar. Second pillar is to support law enforcement authorities in the prevention of illegal wildlife trade. So the trafficking of wildlife parts, we have agreements with the investigation police and the prosecutor's office to support with technical capacity the disruption of the trade. And the third one is the mitigation of human-wildlife conflict outside of protected areas. Mozambique is in a special situation where national parks are not fenced, are very large, and animals move across those landscapes in between national parks. Old migratory routes, ecological corridors, really important, but as they move, they come in touch with communities and the phenomena of wildlife conflict develops. And so by addressing human-wildlife conflict, we are protecting people, but also keeping those corridors, that dynamic and those old links intact. It's a complex work, and it's a work that starts just by acknowledging that the problem exists, communication with districts, with communities, and then goes through different phases. We call it a 3-phase approach. Phase 1 involves contacts, monitoring, having as much information as possible about what species, what's the prevalence of conflict, what is actually the conflict, and keep that information flowing, establish those communication links with communities, with district authorities, all in partnership with ANAC. And then as we understand what's happening in a certain location, we provide training, equipment, and a bit of clarity on what human-wildlife conflict is in Mozambique, what's the legal framework, what are the techniques that can be used, what are the techniques that from our experience don't work, and where is the line drawn between maintaining people's safety and food security and conservation efforts. And people will come first always, and there's a process that assesses what's happening to come to that decision.